Mr. Kessler talks to him again and eventually is able to convince Mr. Brooks to exit the van. Was Mr. Kessler obligated to do that? No. Could Mr. Kessler have just pulled him out of the van? Sure. Trying to get compliance and start out on the proper foot with an incarcerated individual. As soon as they get a look at Mr. Brooks outside of the van, they can tell he's coming to Marcy because he's obviously had problems at Mohawk. His eye is discolored and swollen. He's got blood in his nostril of his nose. And you heard Sergeant say, I'll tell you, a dude doesn't hit another dude for no reason. Once out of the van, ladies and gentlemen, Officer Kessler gives Mr. Brooks another lawful directive. He tells him to carry his in-draft bags. Again, Mr. Brooks refuses and is non-compliant. Again, Officer Kessler negotiates with Mr. Brooks. I'll tell you what, I'm going to carry the heavier bag, you carry the lighter bag. Let's get into the administration building. Does Mr. Kessler have to do that? Absolutely not. Again, to gain compliance. Good for Marcy. They ultimately get into the administration lobby. Brooks again refuses to carry his own property bag any further. He states, I'm not going to carry the effing bag. He was more descriptive than I. For the third time while at Marcy, Mr. Brooks is non-compliant. He is not following a lawful directive. Again, Mr. Kessler, trying to be reasonable with Mr. Brooks, tells him, look, if you don't pick up your property and you don't carry it, you're not going to have your personal property. Mr. Brooks again refuses. He says, F it, I don't want it. Did Mr. Kessler have to try to convince Mr. Brooks to carry his property? No. So again, good for Mr. Kessler. Later, on the walkway, you saw the video, you see that neither Mr. Brooks nor Mr. Kessler is carrying a property bag. So apparently that did not work out, and Mr. Brooks remained non-compliant with lawful directives given to him. They go into the Sally Port within the administration building. They ID Mr. Brooks per policy. They exit the Sally Port. They now enter into the area we've been calling the breezeway. Mr. Kessler tells the Mohawk correctional officer, the transport officer, remove the leg restraints, remove the handcuffs, remove the waist belt. The Mohawk corrections officer removes all three. Mr. Brooks is now unrestrained per Mr. Kessler. Mr. Kessler then gives Mr. Brooks another very simple, safety-based directive. Put your hands deep into your pockets. Very simple. Again, Mr. Brooks does not comply. Mr. Kessler told you at that time, C.O. Walrath runs into this breezeway, puts Mr. Brooks up against the wall, and puts him into what's been described as a UFC headlock, and he starts yanking with great force on his throat. Mr. Kessler told you, I have no idea what the hell just happened. I don't know why the hell Walrath did this. He had no idea. I submit to you, neither did Nicholas Kiefer have any idea why Mr. Walrath had done this. Did Walrath see something that maybe the others didn't see, or did he think he saw something? We don't know. We do know, according to Glenn Trombley, that Mr. Walrath is a very heavy-handed correctional officer. When Mr. Walrath runs into that room and takes hold of Mr. Brooks in that headlock, what do the officers do? They do what they're trained to do. They come to his aid to get Mr. Brooks and Mr. Walrath separated. That's what they're trained to do, and that's what they are required to do. That, ladies and gentlemen, is Employee Rule 8.18. They are to immediately come to the aid of a fellow officer who is struggling with an incarcerated individual. Rule 8.18. That is not the time for second guessing. Recall that even a simple toothbrush in a prison setting can be turned into a deadly weapon, a shank. Somebody else, stop, enough. We know it wasn't Mr. Kessler, we know it wasn't Mr. Walrath. That leaves the Mohawk Transportation Officer, that leaves Mr. Anzalone, that leaves Mr. Kiefer. Maybe it was one of them, maybe it was two, maybe it was all three of them. But somebody said stop, and it stops. Kessler said that he and the other officers, including Mr. Kiefer, got Mr. Walrath off of Mr. Brooks. Kessler also told you that he himself had struck Mr. Brooks multiple times, a peroneal strike, but he could not tell you what any other CO had done in that breezeway in that moment. Remember what Glenn Trombley told you. He told you that Mr. Kessler is a hothead. At any rate, Mr. Kessler told you on a question on cross-examination that this entire breezeway event lasted maybe 7 seconds, no more than 7 seconds. Mr. Kessler then testified that Mr. Kiefer told the Mohawk Transportation Officer he didn't see anything. Do you think that's true? Why was the Mohawk Transport Officer not called to testify as to what Mr. Kiefer allegedly said to him? The prosecution could have called him, they didn't. Maybe it's not that important to the prosecution. If what Mr. Kiefer actually said or didn't say is not important to the prosecution, I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, it may not be that important for your deliberations. They then leave the breezeway. Mr. Brooks is not keeping pace. He's being escorted by Mr. Anzalone and Mr. Kessler, arm in arm, they're walking towards the infirmary. Again, Mr. Brooks becomes non-compliant with a very simple lawful directive. Walk faster. They enter the man-trapped area on the administration building. This is the big double doors, the Sally port outside. They get to the exit, Mr. Brooks sits down. They get Mr. Brooks back up to his feet, and they tell him, keep walking. Again, he does not keep pace. As Mr. Kessler told you, he was lagging behind. Recall, Mr. Trombley told you, as he was driving up, he saw the incarcerated individual turning his head back and forth and moving his arms while he's walking. Those were against the directives that Kessler had given Mr. Brooks. According to Mr. Kessler, Mr. Kiefer then says to Mr. Kessler and Mr. Anzalone, put Mr. Brooks on the ground, he's going to pepper spray him. Why? To get compliance, to gain compliance with Mr. Brooks. He's been uncooperative since he's arrived at Marcy. Recall the sworn testimony of the Assistant Chief to the Office of Special Investigations, Mr. Christopher Marticello. He told you that when he was a corrections officer at the Green Haven Correction Facility, at the beginning of his career, he had to use force several times. He told you when he had to use force on those several occasions, on each and every one of those occasions, he did it to gain compliance, not to cause injury. Ladies and gentlemen, that is precisely what Nicholas Kiefer had done to gain compliance. Did Mr. Kessler tell you, stand this guy, or did Mr. Kessler tell you that Mr. Kiefer said, stand this guy back to the fence, I want to face him so I could pepper spray in his face? He did not say that. Did he tell you that Mr. Kiefer said, put Mr. Brooks on the ground face up so I could spray him in the face? No, he did not say that. They put Mr. Brooks on the ground. He went down to his knees. They laid him down on his chest, face down, face down. Mr. Kiefer sprays the minimum amount of pepper spray. That apparently hit Mr. Brooks in the back of the head or the neck area. Sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, that's all that it takes for a prisoner is to be reminded that corrections officers carry OC spray, and they will use it if necessary. It certainly was the minimum amount of pepper spray. Most importantly, because the spray hit Mr. Brooks on the back of his head or sweatshirt or the back of his neck, it had no effect on him. Recall what Mr. Kessler said about that on direct examination. He said he really couldn't tell if the pepper spray got into Mr. Brooks's eyes. I think we could all be confident that if the spray got into Mr. Brooks's eyes, everyone would know it. It would be obvious. Kessler was asked on cross-examination, Mr. Kessler, did the minimum amount of OC pepper spray that was dispensed have the desired effect on Mr. Brooks? His answer, no, not really. You heard Glenn Trombley yesterday. He kind of vacillates on the issue. He said on his direct testimony that it was sprayed and they were coughing a little bit. Then on cross-examination, he agreed he did not see any effects of the pepper spray on Mr. Brooks. There was no orange residue, there was no tears, there was no mucus from his nose. He stated that he thought the pepper spray hit Mr. Brooks in the back of his head or the neck. He also told you, ladies and gentlemen, that pepper spray usually does not cause an injury and that Docs prefers pepper spray over physical force. He said it was the first line of defense. Glenn Trombley also told you on cross-examination yesterday that he has never seen Nick Kiefer get mad. Never seen Nick Kiefer get mad. And he said, and I quote, "For Nick Kiefer to use pepper spray, something must have happened." For Nick Kiefer to use pepper spray, something must have happened. You have all seen the videos. You have all seen Mr. Brooks on the videos. Did you see them have to decontaminate Mr. Brooks? No. No, you did not. You heard the good doctor, Dr. Merkelova, who did the autopsy. She did not even make a note of any pepper spray being on the exterior of Mr. Brooks's body. The pepper spray, ladies and gentlemen, had no effect on Mr. Brooks at all. His eyes were open, you see that on the video. There was no drooling, you see that on the video. No mucus from his nose, no tears from his eyes, no coughing, no orange residue on his face, nothing. Recall that both Mr. Kessler and Mr. Trombley told you that after this pepper spray incident on the walkway, Nicholas Kiefer did not lay one finger on Mr. Brooks. Not one finger on Mr. Brooks. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not commenting about what happened to Mr. Brooks in the treatment room. Nick Kiefer was no part of that. He wasn't there. What I'm asking you to do is to review and evaluate the situation up until Mr. Brooks was carried into that infirmary building. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Mr. Brooks was a problem at the Mohawk Correctional Facility. Mr. Brooks was a problem at the Marcy Correctional Facility from the time he arrived there. Recall the state police investigator, Sarah Neerhoof, if I'm pronouncing her name properly. She was the one with the walkthrough video that she filmed to show you and give you a perspective right from the parking lot all the way to this incident. She actually went all the way back into the treatment room so you can get a visual of the actual route that Mr. Brooks was taking that evening. To get all that on film so you would have a good view of it, it took 1 minute and 45 seconds. For Mr. Brooks to walk that same route, it took over 14 minutes. Now that we have reviewed the evidence, or more accurately put, the lack of evidence, ask yourselves, ask each other when you're deliberating. Did the prosecution prove to you that Nicholas Kiefer intended to aid or encourage anyone's criminal conduct? Did Nick Kiefer act with the mental state, depraved indifference, or conscious disregard for life? Did he intend to harm or cause serious injury to Robert Brooks? Or was he simply present for brief moments, but not acting with any criminal intent? Our law does not punish people for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. It punishes those who act with criminal intent and indifference. For Nick Kiefer, the prosecution has not met its burden of proof on any of the 4 charges. Let's talk about Dr. Merkulova. She did the autopsy. She told you that Mr. Brooks' death was due to compression of the neck and multiple blunt impact injuries. Multiple blunt impact injuries. That's contained right in our autopsy report that was submitted by the special prosecutor. That is Exhibit 36 for your review, if you so desire. There was no evidence presented that Mr. Kiefer inflicted any blunt force injury to Mr. Brooks or caused any injury at all. None. No evidence. Dr. Merkulova closely examined the exterior body of Mr. Brooks and did not note any pepper spray on any portion of the exterior of his body. She told you that she examined his face, his eyes, his mouth, his neck, his nasal passage. No pepper spray in those areas at all. None. She also told you that she did the internal examination of Mr. Brooks' body. She looked in his mouth. She looked down his throat. Looked at his tongue. Looked at his lungs. No mention of pepper spray in any of those areas, and certainly no injury as a result of the minimum application of pepper spray. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any doubt, any reasonable doubt about whether Mr. Kiefer possessed the required mental state or whether he intentionally aided or encouraged the conduct, you must find him not guilty. The burden is on the prosecution, and quite frankly, they did not meet their burden, and I say that with respect. You've been told many times, ladies and gentlemen, and you're going to be told again when the judge gives you the final instructions, the burden of proof on these charges rests entirely, 100% upon the prosecution. The defense is not obligated to prove anything. But did the prosecution take you through the video evidence and say, here's where Nick Kiefer committed murder second, depraved indifference, here's where Nick Kiefer committed manslaughter one, here's where he committed gang assault? No, they did not. There were 4 body-worn cameras in the evidence. You have them all. The A-Long video, the Trombley video, the Gallagher video, and the Fisher video. I was the one who initially took you through those videos, minute by minute, that the prosecution had put into evidence. I did not try to hide anything from you. I wanted you to see it all with your own eyes. I showed you every time Nick Kiefer walked in and out of that treatment room. I showed you how long was he in that treatment room and what was happening in that treatment room when Nick Kiefer walked in and out. Nick Kiefer, ladies and gentlemen, was in there 4 times, and that's assuming you're counting his leaning through the threshold over to the counter to grab his body-worn camera and exit the room as 1. If you don't count that as 1, he's in there 3 times. At no time that he was in that treatment room was he in there longer than 16, 17 seconds. And at no time when he was in that room did he see, or do you see on the video, anybody punching, kicking, striking, assaulting, or other abuse on Mr. Brooks. Ladies and gentlemen, at the start of this case, Mr. Fitzpatrick assured you that he would prove to you that Nicholas Kiefer was a member of a gang of murderers. Did he? I submit to you he did not. Although they promised you they would, the prosecution has not shown you that Nick Kiefer acted with depraved indifference. There is no evidence that Nick Kiefer exhibited a wanton disregard for human life. The facts do not show that he consciously disregarded a grave risk, nor that he encouraged or aided anyone else in such conduct. Nick Kiefer was only present in that treatment room for mere seconds, very brief moments. But even if he had been in that treatment room for the whole time, his presence alone is not guilt. Unless Mr. Kiefer intentionally aided or encouraged the conduct, he cannot be held criminally liable as an accessory. The prosecution has not shown that Nick Kiefer intended to cause a physical injury to Robert Brooks, let alone prove to you that he caused a serious injury to Robert Brooks. In fact, the prosecution has not shown you that Mr. Kiefer caused any injury to Robert Brooks. Ladies and gentlemen, the prosecution's case relies on speculation and assumptions, not on concrete proof. You cannot convict on speculation. You must base your verdict solely on the evidence and the law as the judge will instruct you. Emotions play no role in this. As I stated, this case is a tragedy, but our justice system demands that we distinguish between those who are truly culpable and those who are not. Nick Kiefer did not act with depraved indifference. He did not intentionally aid or encourage the conduct that led to Mr. Brooks's death. Mr. Kiefer did not intend to cause a serious injury that resulted in Mr. Brooks's death. Mr. Kiefer did not intend to cause a physical injury when he was aided by two or more who were physically present to Mr. Brooks. And he did not intend to file a false statement. Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence does not support the prosecution's theory on all four of these charges. I ask you to return a verdict of not guilty on behalf of Mr. Kiefer. The prosecution's strategy in this case seems to have been charge them all and let the jury figure it out. You, the jury, let you guys figure it out. Well, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Nicholas Kiefer, I think you have figured it out. Nick Kiefer is not guilty of the crimes charged against him. Please tell that to this court. Please tell that to this community. Return a verdict of not guilty on behalf of Nicholas Kiefer. We once again thank you for your time and attention in this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Longer. Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
After 2.5 hours of listening to how this was a tragedy, let's now get back to reality, if that's okay with all of you. What's the tragedy? I'm missing the point here. We have 3 heroes in the room, ladies and gentlemen. Forgive my impertinence for indicting them for what they did. I'm sorry. I must be waiting for their award ceremony for the heroic actions of Mr. Kiefer in pepper spraying a helpless 148-pound guy who's lying on the ground and who the testimony says didn't do a thing. Oh, I'm sorry. It took him 10 seconds to get off the van. The death penalty for that? Mr. Gallagher, a babe in the woods, Didn't say a thing. Just doing his job. Shackling a guy who's getting his testicles pushed up to his larynx, right in front of him. And he has the temerity to stand in front of you for 90 minutes and say, he did nothing wrong, just following orders. He's such a good guy. Leg iron award for him, pepper spray award for him, and God only knows what for Mr. Kingsley, who also did nothing wrong, ripping a guy's throat off. Let's get back to reality. And I remind you that they killed him. The whole rotten, stinking, disgusting group of them. They all participated in it, and they all killed that man. You know it, and everybody in this courtroom knows it. Don't fall into the trap of analyzing minutia, who hit him hardest, which was the worst blow, who struck first. Was Anzalone worse than Kingsley? Was Kingsley worse than Kiefer? Was Kiefer worse than Gallagher? Was Gallagher worse than Trombley? They were all in it together. The Marcy Welcoming Committee. Or, as Mr. Lubran said, just an average in-draft at Marcy. The fact is that when you look at these videos, this snuff film of a helpless prisoner, aren't you left awestruck by the community? The lack of panic, no sense of urgency by these three men or anyone else, the laughter, the almost calm serenity. I'm standing next to a guy dying. I'll check my watch to see if my shift is almost over. The haste to fill out a form. The guy's body hasn't even been taken out of the infirmary. And Kiefer's sitting there getting ready to doctor his form. And you can listen till the cows come home, and Judge Bauer isn't going to tell you that there's a defense to filing a false report that says I was ordered to do it. That's your name on the form, Mr. Kiefer. Not Mr. Trombley's, not Mr. Gallagher's, not Mr. Mayshaw's. It's your name on that report. And you know what the sickening irony of all this is? As I sit here and listen to this 2.5 hours of Fantasy Island, you know, I'm a great believer in providence. I do not think that we have been created by a cosmic accident. I believe in fate. And I believe that fate recorded those videos. Can you imagine what this trial would have been like? I'd still be sitting there. These guys would still be charged. But can you imagine what it would be like without those videos? We already know. Mr. Kiefer told us. All force ceased before entrance into the infirmary. That's his report. He's required to file it. And he sits here and he tells you he's not guilty of that. There would have been a whole trial of, oh yeah, he resisted, he was a maniac, he was high on K2, he was a lunatic, he had a sock and a lock, and oh my God, he slipped outside. And thank God we were able to save ourselves. We know beyond any reasonable doubt that Mr. Kiefer was involved in this up to his neck. And speaking of necks, we know that Mr. Kingsley was involved. Just look at that photo. And a few moments ago, his lawyer told you he did nothing wrong. Did nothing wrong. Mr. Gallagher, it's 9:30. Robert Brooks is dead. If he was in the Mayo Clinic, he'd still be dead. This guy's laughing. That doesn't show indifference, depravity. These were not corrections officers. They were a gang. They were a gang of murderers. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on what you heard during the summations. But I will ask you to remind yourselves about evidence, okay? Evidence. I'm not going to tell you what so-and-so was thinking, what my client was thinking, or what he really went to do, or what he wanted to do, because if I stand here till doomsday and ask Tracy to read that back, she ain't going to be able to, because there isn't any evidence of that. I didn't know till today that training was the cause. His lack of training, it was only 43 seconds. How much training do you need to join the human race? If I see a civilian, and I've seen it 1,000 times in my 40-year career as a prosecutor, if I see a civilian run into a burning building and come out and saving somebody, I don't sit down with them and say, where did you get your training for that? Because I know where they got their training for that. They got it by being a human being. Training for 43 seconds, I don't care if it's 4 seconds, I don't care if it's 43 days. A guy's been on the job for 18 years. He doesn't know that he's supposed to intervene. Isn't it funny how all of the rules that help these guys, they're experts on? But the one rule that points out that they're murderers, we barely knew about that. Don't fall for that. Did someone actually stand in front of you a few moments ago and say that Officer Farina was wiping off Robert Brooks's nose? Did I hear that? I was sitting there. I don't know if you heard that. Common sense, reality. Let's get back there, okay? Wiping his nose. And how many times did you hear, what was he supposed to do, Mr. Gallagher? There wasn't a thing he could do. Wasn't a thing he could do, good Lord. In a few moments, you're going to hear Judge Bauer discuss and define accomplice liability. The example we've used up to this point is the getaway driver versus the Uber driver. You'll hear words like intentionally aids. You won't hear Judge Bauer say, he's really got to aid him a lot. He's got to substantially aid him. It's got to be like really huge how much he aids him. He's going to tell you that if someone intentionally aids someone in what is obviously happening in front of them, then they too are responsible for that conduct. Based on what we've listened to for 2 hours, I want to play for you 10 minutes of reality. 13 men, including these 3 defendants, murdering Robert Brooks. And I remind you that much of what happened to Robert happened before the cameras ever came on. That is obvious to any sentient human being. When Mr. Gallagher's lawyer tells you that he had no idea what had happened out in the breezeway or the walkway, take a look at Robert when he's brought in a couple of moments after he was walked right by Mr. Gallagher. A typical in-draft at Marcy. Mr. Kiefer coming in with his pepper spray can, already having participated in the beating, according to the testimony of Officer Kessler. You see how concerned everyone is, how worried they are about Robert. I had no idea there was anything wrong with Mr. Brooks. Just a typical indraft at Marcy. There it is, Mr. Gallagher's full view. They're just wiping his face, gently trying to remove the pepper spray. What could he possibly have done? Maybe rejoined the human race and told these animals to stop? No. Nope, I'll hold him down. and help Farina. If that doesn't look like aid, I don't know what does. Weren't you expecting to see a violent kick from Robert based on what you heard during opening statements? His legs are barely moving. Now, let's take away the last possible line of defense that he has, his legs, and cuff them together so that Farina can stand on the chain and continue this beating. And he stands there, Gala, and doesn't do a damn thing to stop this. I'd show you all of that, ladies and gentlemen, from Mr. Gallagher's body-worn camera, but coincidentally, apparently, as he went out into the cold and came back into the warmth of the infirmary, he zipped up his jacket. So I can't show you the rest of it. Nicholas Kiefer saw no evil, heard no evil, spoke no evil. He was part of the greeting committee. He strikes Robert Brooks in the arsenal for no reason at all. He pepper sprays Robert for no reason at all. He stands by and watches this occur. He follows the gang into the ER while Robert has clearly been beaten senseless. Never does a damn thing to intervene, despite multiple opportunities to do so. And he sits here today and says, I didn't do anything wrong. He even tried to go back in until he was finally ordered out. You know what I've often thought? We have 5 senses. I kept listening to this trial about how you didn't see this, you didn't see that. Are these people deaf? Do you think there was noises coming from that room that might have been indicative of the horror that was going on? And then he wrote a use of force report that he tells you isn't a crime. All force ceased. Nicholas Kiefer, guilty of murder. Matthew Gallagher was just following orders. I didn't know nothing. I didn't know what I could do. I had been on the job 18 years. It's still new to me. I just don't know. I tried my best. I thought I'd get the leg irons to what? He's part of the greeting committee too. He watched what happened in the ER. How can a human being look at that? And you're charged with responsibility for protecting that guy. It's a tough job. It's a dangerous place. Yeah, that's a tough job. That's a dangerous place. It's a dangerous place for Robert Brooks. He holds Robert down while Anselm and Farina are punching the guy's penis, fracturing his testicles. He stands there and he tells you, I didn't see anything. It's a guy beating him with a shoe. He tried to convince you earlier in this trial that he saw kicking. There's no kicking. He bravely rushes out to his van. Oops. I think I'll zip up my jacket. You know why he zipped up his jacket. Everybody in this room knows why he zipped up his jacket. The next 9.5 minutes are blank. He restrains Robert to continue the assault. You've already seen that multiple times. He yanks Robert's pants off, his final act of indignity to that dying human being. And then he tries to tell you it's regulations. Yanks him off like he's treating an animal. Look at the professionalism, the sensitivity, the care that you just heard about a few moments ago. Never intervenes, never questions, never files a use of force report. Just following orders. Ordinary, good, decent people. You have a summons in the mail. You wind up on jury duty. Sometimes greatness is accidental. Sometimes we strive for greatness. A generation from now, your kids, your grandkids, they'll look at you and they'll say, "What did you do, Mom, Grandma, Grandpa, Dad? What did you do that was great in your life?" In a few moments, you can answer them and say, "I brought justice to a system that dehumanized a man, a simple man who did a terrible thing, but whose opportunities were only ahead of him. A man who looked around a room as he was choking to death on his own blood and undoubtedly asking himself, who is here to protect me? I was pepper sprayed for no reason. I was beaten for no reason. I was hogtied for no reason. I was choked to death. No reason. The sad, inexcusable, unthinkable answer is that no one, not one member of that gang, did a thing to help. Not Mr. Kiefer, not Mr. Gallagher, not Mr. Casey. And now, we all know what happened to Robert Brooks. When you reach your deliberations, someone look at your watch. And when you get to 31 minutes, you will have given more time to these three men than they gave to Robert Brooks' life at Marcy. Murder in the second degree. Just click it forward, Jim. Depravity, wanton disregard, indifference, manslaughter in the first degree, intent to cause serious physical injury, gang assault in the second degree, intent to cause only physical injury, causing serious physical injury, all acting in concert. The question for you is, was there a commonality of purpose, a design? Not to kill, they're not charged with intending to kill. 5 times on his summation, Mr. Lubran told you that I was required to prove that his client intended to kill Mr. Brooks. 5 times. He's not charged with intending to kill Mr. Brooks. This was a gang with the express intent of dehumanizing Robert. We're not going to stand for such impertinence as failure to put your hands in your pockets. If you find that inhumanity, that depravity, which is obvious, frankly, the next question is, did the defendants aid in this dehumanization and this depravity? Mr. Kingsley? Of course he did. Mr. Kiefer? Of course he did. Mr. Gallagher? Of course he did. The 3 of these men, Mr. Kiefer, Mr. Kingsley, Mr. Gallagher, they were part of it. They joined it. They did it willingly. I think to one of my favorite movies, which you may or may not have seen, A Few Good Men. It's a great ensemble cast, Tom Cruise, Jack Nicholson. And there's 2 Marines on trial. And they were on trial for killing a fellow Marine by the name of Willie Santiago. It's a great scene, cross-examination in the trial, where the Tom Cruise character gets Colonel Jessup to admit that he ordered a code red, not the phony red dot that Kiefer ordered, but a code red, which was designed to terrorize a fellow Marine who they thought was slacking off. Turns out Santiago had a medical condition. He wasn't slacking off at all. But it's a form of discipline. So the Marines go to trial and they're feeling pretty good. because they got Jessup to admit that he ordered the code red. And sure enough, they're acquitted. Private Downey, Lance Corporal Dawson. But then they're found guilty of conduct unbecoming a United States Marine. And Downey, if you remember the movie, Downey's stunned. What do you mean, guilty? We didn't do anything wrong. Downey's the shorter of the two. He's kind of a country bumpkin. We didn't do anything wrong. Colonel Jessup ordered the code red. We did nothing wrong. And then the wiser Lance Corporal Dawson says, yeah, we did. We were supposed to fight for people who couldn't fight for themselves. We were supposed to fight for Willie. These three men, before they divorced themselves from the human race, were supposed to fight for Robert. And justice demands that they be held accountable for the brutality of their actions and their inactions. Nobody's charging them with failure to follow the DOC's regulation, but that's part of their state of mind. Myself and my colleagues, defense lawyers and prosecutors alike, we fight all over this country for justice in America's courtrooms. If you ask 10 lawyers to define justice, what is it? You probably get 10 different answers. But right now, today, in a Utica courtroom, I'm looking at justice. That is about to pass into your hands. Justice most certainly for these three men, and justice for Robert Brooks. And I know you have the common sense, the wisdom, the courage, the decency to let justice ring from this courtroom, let justice ring in the canyons of Manhattan, let justice ring from the snow-capped peaks of the Adirondacks, and let justice ring in every single town and village and city in the county of Oneida. God bless you, and I thank you very much for your kind attention, and I wish you Godspeed.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzpatrick. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening attentively for some time now. My instructions will take a bit of time, so I'm going to give you about a 5-minute break. Let you stretch your legs. I'll continue on with my final charge when you come back. We'll take about 5 minutes. We'll take 5 minutes.